Several of these brands claim to provide excellent wear resistance and durability, so let's test that next. The official testing standards call for 180 grit, which is what we'll be using. I'll replace the sandpaper after testing each brand. The tester that I'll be using has 2 fingers that are soft like human hands. Everything moves freely, and I'll apply 15 pounds to the top of the tester, which works out to 8.74 pounds of downward force. I'll sweep off the sandpaper periodically to make sure that the sandpaper is able to do its job. The GNF gloves are the heaviest in the lineup, and the finger has a total thickness of 6.63 millimeters, which is pretty thick. And the GNF is going to be really hard to beat at 61 passes. Very impressive. The Palmer gloves are constructed of very thin leather at only 1.91 millimeters of total thickness. And the Palmer gloves gave up a lot sooner than the GNF gloves at 15 passes. The Handy Landy is constructed of even thinner material than the Palmer at only 1.54 millimeters of total thickness. And the Handy Landy gave up even sooner than the Palmer gloves at 12 passes. The WZ is about twice as thick as a Handy Landy. And the extra thickness really helped at 23 passes to move into second place. The Wells Lamont isn't quite as thick as the WZ at 2.73 millimeters. And the Wells Lamont gave up even sooner than the WZ at 14 passes. The Magid's finger thickness is 2.78 millimeters. And the Magid performed almost as well as the WZ at 22 passes. The Hex Armor is about the same as the Magid at 2.76 millimeters, but most of that thickness seems to be the glove liner. And the Hex Armor is finished in 12 passes. The No Cry is only 2.09 millimeters thick, but is constructed of a different material than the previous brands. And the No Cry performed a lot better than anticipated for a relatively thin glove and is finally finished in 32 passes. The Tulin does have a pretty thick liner, but the total thickness is 4.49 millimeters. And the Tulin is performing quite a bit better than average, but not quite as good as the No Cry at 26 passes. The Cestus isn't quite as thick as the Tulin at 3.77 millimeters. With less material, the Cestus wear out quicker than the Tulin at 24 passes, which is still pretty good. The DeWalt gloves are pretty thin with a total thickness of 2.07 millimeters. Even though the DeWalt gloves are pretty thin, they are still pretty durable at 21 passes. The Westchester gloves are pretty thin at only 1.98 millimeters. And the Westchester glove is already finished in only 7 passes. The Mechanics gloves are very comfortable, but they're also very thin with a total thickness of only 1.75 millimeters. And the Mechanics gloves only made it to 10 passes. The Carhartt gloves are quite a bit thicker than the Westchester and the Mechanics gloves. And the Carhartt glove is finished in 22 passes. The Kinko gloves have an insulation that's pretty thick with a total finger thickness of 9.8 millimeters, the thickest yet. And the Kinko lasted almost as long as the Carhartt glove at 20 passes. The Superior gloves are very comfortable, but they're also very thin at only 2.24 millimeters. And the Superior gloves gave up quickly at only 6 passes. The Ironclad gloves are quite a bit thicker than the Superior gloves at 2.69 millimeters. And the Ironclad gloves lasted quite a bit longer than the Superior gloves at 19 passes. So the GNF gloves, which are the least expensive gloves in the lineup, came out on top at 61 passes. The No Cry finished in second place at 32 passes and Tulin third at 26.